The scene opens with a woman named Raina Ashford frantically calling 911 to report that she's witnessed a murder. She's terrified and hiding when a shadowy figure enters the room. The line goes dead and the call is dispatched to Karadec and Morgan. When the detectives arrive, they find Raina calmly making coffee. She denies having made any emergency call. However, Morgan recognizes her distinctive accent and is convinced she was the caller. After checking her phone records, they find no trace of any 911 call. With no evidence to hold her, they're forced to leave. Still, Morgan suspects Raina is being pressured into silence, while Karadec decides to request surveillance outside her home, just to be safe. A few hours later, Karadec and Morgan are called back to Raina's home. This time, she's dead at the bottom of the stairs. OZ informs them that the neighbors neither saw nor heard anything suspicious. There are no gunshot wounds or visible injuries, other than the head trauma from the fall. It appears she simply slipped and hit her head. However, Karadec notes that Raina had 3 missed calls from someone named Lucy, making her the prime suspect for now. While examining the body, Karadec notices a stain on Raina's back, something that doesn't look like blood or dirt, which strikes him as odd. Morgan observes that when someone ascends the stairs, they naturally grab the banister, and given Raina's rings, there should be scratch marks, but there aren't any. This leads Morgan to theorize that she didn't fall on her own. Either she was pushed or jumped, and considering she had recently witnessed a murder, it may be that someone wanted to silence her for good. OZ returns with new information. According to the neighbors, there was a wild party happening right across the street the night Raina called 911. When Karadec and Morgan arrive at the scene, they meet the host, Logan. They suggest that one of his guests might have gotten out of control, possibly linking the chaos to the 911 call reporting a shooting. Since there wasn't a crime scene at Raina's place, the detectives theorize that the shooting could have happened at the party, and that Raina might have witnessed it. Logan denies everything. As they continue investigating, Morgan notices subtle details: a unicorn sticker on Logan's mailbox, a possible signal to customers that business is open, and a man circling the area on a bike, clearly waiting for them to leave. When Morgan mentions this, Logan's eyes dart toward a drawer where he has his drugs hidden, the perfect giveaway. Realizing he's been caught, Logan bolts and tries to escape on the customer's bike, but as he looks back over his shoulder, he crashes into a car and is quickly taken in for questioning. Welcome to Sandy's Timeline. Today, we're breaking down High Potential Season 2, Episode 4. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more episode recaps like this. Let's dive in. At the station, Logan denies any involvement in Raina's death or in any murder connected to his house. Instead, he insists he was only trying to help her. Morgan points out that he was Raina's dealer, but Logan explains that he provides medication to people who can't get it through the system. According to him, Raina had recently lost her insurance and couldn't afford her migraine medication, so he helped her out. He describes her as a kind woman and swears he'd never hurt her. Karadec then brings up the 911 call Raina made earlier that morning. When asked about his whereabouts at that time, Logan says he was with Raina, who had gone down to the basement to gather a few items she planned to sell. He claims that while she was downstairs, he received a call from someone named Bones, so he stepped upstairs to take it. When Raina came back up, she seems completely calm, showing no sign that she had made any emergency call or witnessed anything unusual. Morgan and Karadec head down to Raina's basement to search for anything out of the ordinary. Karadec suggests that Morgan dust for fingerprints, explaining that if Logan had drugs in his system, his prints would actually glow brighter under a black light due to chemical residue. Sure enough, they find clear prints, confirming that Logan had indeed been in the basement. However, to clear him as a suspect, they still need to prove he was upstairs around 9:30 a.m. when Raina made the 911 call. Morgan recalls hearing 4 distinct beeps during the emergency call and theorizes that the sound might have come from Raina's high-end coffee maker, the same one she was using when they first arrived at her home. She explains that this particular model beeps 8 times when a full pot is ready, but only 4 were heard on the call, meaning someone stopped it midway. If that's true, someone had to be upstairs at that exact moment to turn it off. When Morgan shines the black light on the coffee maker, a glowing fingerprint appears on the button, solid evidence that Logan was upstairs during the call. That discovery leaves Morgan and Karadec with one lingering question: what exactly did Raina see that made her call 911? They return to the basement for another look and find a burner phone, likely the one Raina used to make the call. While searching further, they uncover a box of cheap pots, and Morgan theorizes that Raina might have stocked up because she'd been burning her pots, possibly from leaving the stove on. Morgan then notices something odd in Raina's kitchen, items placed in strange, illogical spots. That observation leads her to suspect that Raina's medication wasn't just for migraines, it's also commonly prescribed for the early stages of dementia. Karadec suggests that Raina might have made the 911 call herself, but later forgot about it. Morgan adds that dementia can distort memory, causing a person to forget recent events while recalling fragments of the past, but something must have triggered that memory. As they continue to investigate, they realize that when Raina was sorting through items to sell, she must have come across something that brought the memory back. And then they find it, a blood-stained dress hidden away in a box. Now the big question remains, Raina did witness a murder, but when did it happen? The team decides to review old cold cases, but with so many on record, it's like searching for a needle in a haystack. The only concrete clue they have is the blood-stained dress. Morgan examines the fabric and determines it's tencel, a material that wasn't available until 1985. According to the U.S. Registered Identification Number, the dress was manufactured by Cybrain Creations, a company that went out of business in 2015. Morgan explains that care labels first became mandatory in 1971, and cleaning symbols were officially approved in 1998. The dress features those symbols but lacks a barcode or inventory number, meaning it was likely produced around the year 2000. That narrows the search to cold cases from 15,320 to about 200 in total. Focusing on shooting victims, they cut the list down to 9. When Daphne reviews the files, one case stands out, a 25-year-old black woman named Greta, an up-and-coming singer. Greta was last seen on New Year's Eve 2000 at a nightclub called the Black Jewel. She was later found shot in the chest in a nearby alley with no weapon and no witnesses. The medical examiner's report noted powder burns and shrapnel on her right side, but the investigation went nowhere. The case received little media attention, a tragic reflection of the time and the victim's background. Records also show that the manager of the Black Jewel during the murder was a man named Eddie Friedman. The team splits up to follow different leads. Oz and Pafni head out to interview a music producer who knew both Greta and Raina back in the day. He tells them that the two women were rivals and that Greta, a remarkably talented singer, was on the verge of stardom during that New Year's Eve performance. The producer explains that Greta's manager, Eddie Friedman, also known as Epps, owned the Black Jewel nightclub and had a reputation for shady dealings, including alleged drug operations. Though he was later arrested, back then, he had enormous influence in the local music scene. Greta had a real shot at breaking through, but when Epps tried to insert himself into her rising career, she refused. He didn't take rejection well and began harassing her. There were even rumors that the only reason he started managing Raina was to stay close to Greta. Meanwhile, Morgan and Karadec track down Lucy, the mysterious woman whose name appeared in Raina's phone records. Lucy confirms that Greta and Raina had been rivals and recalls meeting Greta when she photographed her for a magazine feature. She explains that Raina blamed Epps for her career's collapse. She believed he had no real interest in managing her and was only obsessed with Greta. When Greta rejected him, Epps turned vindictive, and Raina got caught in the crossfire. Lucy adds that Epps was a dangerous man, one who made Greta's family's life a living nightmare when she tried to pull away from him. While examining Greta's old photos, Morgan begins to notice a series of subtle but telling details. In one picture, Greta is wearing a splint on her hand, likely from repetitive wrist strain, the kind often caused by holding a baby. In later photos, Greta had stopped wearing heels, opting instead for flats, and had begun styling her hair differently, possibly to conceal postpartum hair loss. Putting the clues together, Morgan concludes that Greta had likely given birth 3 months before her death, and since both Greta and Epps were dating at the time, something confirmed by their matching tattoos, it becomes clear that Epps was the father. Given his dangerous lifestyle and criminal ties, Greta likely hid the baby from him to keep the child safe. That would explain her sudden changes in appearance and behavior. She was a mother trying to protect her child. Morgan theorizes that Epps eventually found out about the baby and confronted her, which led to the murder. But without the weapon, proving it would be difficult. Then, Morgan spots something crucial. In photos taken on New Year's Eve, Epps has no injuries, but in those from New Year's Day, his hand is bandaged. Meanwhile, Greta's autopsy photos show powder burns on the right side of her face, evidence consistent with a misfire at close range. Morgan explains her theory. Epps shot Greta once in the chest, then tried to fire again. The gun jammed and exploded, burning Greta's face and injuring Epps's hand. Raina, who was there that night, must have witnessed the murder, which explains both the blood-stained dress and the 911 call, years later when her fading memory finally resurfaced. At the Black Jewel, when confronted by Karadec, Epps panics and makes a run for it. Cornered, he grabs a woman and takes her hostage, sparking a tense standoff with Karadec. With no other options and the hostage's life at risk, Karadec takes the shot, killing Epps instantly. While searching his car, the team finds a visitor's pass to a federal prison, showing that Epps had been there on Monday visiting someone. That means he couldn't have killed Raina, someone else did. Then, Morgan notices something odd about Lucy, whose alibi placed her at Griffith Observatory, backed up by her camera's timestamp. Morgan double-checks the photos and realizes the lighting doesn't match. The timestamp says noon, but the position of the sun shows the pictures were actually taken around 3 p.m. last December. That means Lucy's alibi is a lie. Morgan also recalls that the stain on Raina's back wasn't blood or dirt. It was silver nitrate, a chemical used in photo development. Lucy must have had some on her hands when she pushed Raina, leaving that telltale mark. And when the detectives revisit Lucy's earlier statements, another detail clicks. She mentioned that Epps had terrorized Greta's family for years, something only a family member would know. With the evidence stacked against her, Lucy breaks down and confesses. She reveals that she was Greta's daughter, the baby Greta hid all those years ago. All she ever wanted was to uncover the truth about her father. When Raina, in one of her dementia episodes, admitted to covering up for Epps, Lucy confronted her. Things got heated, and in a moment of rage, Lucy pushed Raina, sending her tumbling down the stairs to her death. The team arrests Lucy, finally closing the case. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more detailed breakdowns and episode recaps. Thanks for watching, and see you next time on Sandy's Timeline.